Hey everybody, Grandmaster Ben Feingold here with our weekly lecture. Usually we have great players of the past, but that would be trolling at this point. So we're going to do great players of the present, and that's Wesley So. Go Wesley. And I want to thank our sponsor, Austin. Thank you, Austin, for sponsoring. And he's actually here watching the lecture live also. So Wesley So was originally from the Philippines, and he played for the Philippines, and he got quite good. And eventually, I believe in 2014, he started playing for the US, and that made a lot of people angry because people like to be angry on the internet. In real life, if you know Wesley, then you're never angry at him because he's like the nicest guy ever. But if you're on the internet, you're like, what? If you're Philippine, you're very mad. You're like, he's Philippine, he's not American. And if you're American, you're also mad, saying all these foreign players are coming to the US and taking our Olympiad spots. So the important thing is everybody's angry. And the first time I met Wesley was around 2009 or 2010 at a Spice Cup in Texas. And it was very strange. What was strange about it, well, he wasn't famous then. He was, I don't know, 2,580 FIDE, 2,600 FIDE. He wasn't, 2,800 FIDE like he is now. And I noticed when he analyzed his games with his opponents that Wesley saw everything and understood everything and knew everything. And I was like, wow, that guy's really good. I can tell from analysis, usually if somebody's really good or not. And the thing that was funny about that was he didn't win any games. It was a 9-round tournament, and he had 1 loss and 8 draws. And I was very confused. I was like, how can somebody that good not win? And I wasn't surprised he became a world-class player later. And the one thing that catapulted him into the world's elite, he was playing in round 1 or 2 of the World Cup, and he was like the lower-rated player. He was the guy who was going to get crushed. And he was playing Ivanchuk. And he beat Ivanchuk in the World Cup when Ivanchuk was super famous in his prime, and nobody heard of Wesley So. And Ivanchuk said he was going to retire from chess because he lost to this unknown player, and so forth. Okay, then obviously that didn't happen. Ivanchuk plays more than anybody. In 2017, Wesley was number 2 in the world with the rating of 28-22, pretty good rating. And in the Fischer Random World Championship in 2019, he beat Carlsen 13.5, 2.5. Now, I would have also beaten Carlsen, but it probably would have been 13-3. That's why I'm not as good as Wesley So. Wait, what? Now, obviously, he didn't win 13 games to 2. I think if you win, you get 3 points, and a draw is worth 1 point. I don't know. But anyway, So became the world 960 champion. And he was also the second highest rated player in the world. And he's played on the Olympiad team many times. He's won US championships. And he's only 29 years old. And he's played for the US for about 9 years. Wesley currently, if I'm correct, which I could be incorrect, lives in Minnesota with his family, although it's his adopted family. And he also may live in St. Louis. He might have a place in both. He's in St. Louis a lot. And you can read about him, and unlike Jan Timman, who I did last week, Wesley's Wikipedia page is pretty good. Jan Timman's page is terrible. They should be ashamed, whoever didn't update that. But Wesley has a lot on his page. And obviously Wesley was number 2 in the world for quite a long time. And they talk a lot about his chess and coming to the US, and this is something that's important to me. It said Wesley So played for the St. Louis Archbishops in the Pro Chess League. And he also, when he played for them, I was on the team also, and we won the Pro Chess League, beating Magnus Carlsen's team in the last round. Although Magnus did go 4-0 against us, we crushed his other players. So I was on the winning Pro Chess League team with him for the Archbishops, when I played for the Archbishops. Hooray for us. Okay, and I've known Wesley forever, and Wesley's a really nice guy, and he's very friendly to everybody. He's one of the friendliest GMs. And he's also super religious. So typically when he has a good tournament, he does thank Jesus at the end. And some people want him forfeited because you can't have Jesus helping you. That's not fair. Okay, it's one person to a game. And they talk about him a lot and all the prize money he's won. They talk about his controversy with Tigran Petrosian, not to be confused with the world champion who died in 1985. So it's not him because he's been dead forever. The current Tigran Petrosian. In the Pro Chess League, the Armenian team that Petrosian was on beat Wesley So's team. Wesley So accused Petrosian of cheating, and eventually Chess.com agreed. And not only that, what a lot of people don't know, but you're going to know now because I'm going to tell you, not only did Chess.com say that Petrosian cheated against Wesley, they also said he cheated the previous match against the Chess Bras, and so they didn't come in second, they came in like fifth or whatever. And the Chess Bras, I think, were given second. Something like that. And they give lifetime ban to Petrosian. Then Petrosian has this very funny thing that he said that's been copy-pasted forever. So you guys all know about that, but it's pretty funny, actually. Later in his career, Tigran Petrosian was playing in the World Rapid and Blitz. Where was that? Might have been in Kazakhstan. But anyway, about a year or two ago, Tigran Petrosian was playing in the World Blitz or Rap. I think it was the Blitz. I don't know. It might have been the Rapid. And his opponent was winning, and his opponent made a one-move blunder, and Petrosian made the winning move. And his opponent was like, oh, God. And then he fell out of his chair. And there's video of that. And then Petrosian, like, hey, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, whatever. But anyway, that was a funny scene with Petrosian's opponent falling out of his chair. That was a really crushing move that he played. Okay, so you can read more about him on his Wikipedia, his team results. Notice how it says first, silver medal, bronze medal, okay, winning for the US team, and so forth. And there's some games they show, personal life, and so on and so forth. Okay, so enough about Wesley So's Wikipedia. Let's talk about his actual chess. So this was played in 2006 in the Singapore Masters against Li Chao. And Li Chao later became one of the strongest Chinese grandmasters, one of the top 5. And this was played in 2006, so Wesley was like 24 something. Okay, now there's 2 Wesley So's. You thought there was one, but there's 2. One Wesley So is the greatest player ever and plays perfect and crushes you. That's one Wesley So. And we're going to see that Wesley So today. The other Wesley So plays like a boring 20-move draw with another super GM. We're not going to see that today. So I think if Wesley had more confidence and just tried to win every game with white and black and felt like he was the better player, he would win a lot more. That's my opinion. But Wesley seems content with getting 3 wins and 6 draws in a 9-round tournament and getting first or equal first. And typically, Wesley does something very odd. He gets 2.5 out of 3 or 3.5 out of 4, then he draws the rest of his games. He doesn't win at the end and tie for first, he's already winning the tournament. And Wesley's won many Super GM tournaments because he never loses. Okay, now this was before Wesley was super high rated. Wesley has the white pieces, plays the 4 knights, and he plays the Scotch. Now in the Scotch, this position, lower rated players and grandmasters have seen often. And black always plays d5 at some point. This is a good time to play d5, okay? And Li Chao castled, and now is a good time to play d5, but he played rook e8. And I must admit, I've seen hundreds of games in the Scotch in this position. I've never seen black just never play d5. I mean, black has a pawn on c6. It lets the bishop on c8 out, attacks the center. But somehow Li Chao played his own variation, maybe trying to get Wesley out of his preparation. Maybe. Okay, so bishop g5. Well, now d5 is risky because the knight's pinned and lots of things are happening here. So I don't think he can play d5 now. So anyway, he didn't want to play d5, so what do I know? Okay, he played h6, keep the pin. Rook b8, getting on the open file. And Wesley said, well, if you're not going to play d5, I'll play f4, and I'm threatening e5, and I'm already winning. Okay, f4, very strong move, and e5 is a winning threat. Chao played bishop e7. Not only is he unpinning, but he's also attacking the pawn on b2 by getting his bishop out of the way. Wesley played b3, bishop c5 check. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but he wants to play bishop d4, I guess. So, okay, fine. Okay, now that the pawn's on b3. Okay, I'm not a big fan of that. Now, this was in 2006, so this wasn't one of my sayings yet. But here, Wesley did a really good job following one of my sayings, which is always sacrifice the exchange. And since Black's played bishop b4, bishop e7, bishop c5, bishop d4, it's time to move the bishop again. So he played the move knight e2, sacking the exchange. You have to take. So, okay, queen takes. Now again, White's threatening e5, which is just completely winning. So White's down the exchange, but again, an exchange means you have a rook for a minor piece. Neither one of Black's rooks looks like it's better than White's minor pieces. Rook on e8's pretty good. Rook on b8 is not doing anything. And White is threatening to win immediately. Without the dark squared bishop, it's very hard for Black to break this pin without ruining his position. Okay, Chao played d6, trying to protect e5. Knight to g3. He wants to play knight h5, which is very annoying. Rook e6, defending his knight again. f5, kicking the rook away. And knight h5. So yeah, Black's piece is over here, not very good, and this piece is all pinned. Okay, and that's a pin that's going to be really hard to escape from. Okay, he played king h7. Wesley played queen e1. He wants to play queen g3 and queen g7 mate with advantage. Finally, Chao played d5, and this definitely loses immediately, although the engine says Black has already lost. This move undefends the rook. And obviously, if queen g3 is coming, that attacks queen g7 mate and the rook. Okay, now in this particular position, Wesley played bishop f6. If we play queen g3, which looks like it's winning because of the two threats, now the knight's not pinned anymore. We can play knight takes h5, attacking the queen. Now Black's winning. Okay, so Wesley played bishop takes f6, takes, and then played the move queen h4. Now he's threatening the f6 pawn, which cannot be defended. Now here's the problem Black has. We're going to do a Yasser Seirawan here, because Yasser's better than me. So might as well do a Yasser Seirawan. Yasser would say, let's look at White's threat. We'll play a silly move for Black, a6. You can't get sillier than that. Knight f6 check. Now, Black can give away his queen, which is ridiculous, or Black can play king h8 or king g7. If king h8, this is mate. So you have to play king g7, and now you lose your queen, because knight h5 check wins the queen. So I just showed you White's threat. And so Chao stopped the threat. He played the move queen e7. Now his queen's defended. So now if you do knight check, discovered check, doesn't matter because my rook is defending the queen. Now this is very funny. This is a psychological problem humans have. Computers don't have this problem. Humans have this problem. And I've talked about this over and over. In this position, White played queen h4. So from a human point of view, your brain isn't thinking, oh no, White's going to play queen g3. Because White could have played queen g3 last move. If White played queen g3 last move, threatening mate, Black could play queen h8, for example, stopping the mate and defending the f-pawn, for example. Okay, so when White plays queen h4, Black isn't thinking, oh no, what if White plays queen g3 next move? He could have already played queen g3. And after queen e7, Now you can't play queen h8 because your queen's on e7. So now Wesley played queen g3. Man, the truth hurts. Okay, now the only move that stops queen g7, mate, unless I'm wrong, I don't think I'm wrong, okay, I don't see any other move, is queen f8. I don't see another move. And then knight takes pawn check. This is the only legal move, and the rook is hanging. And white's up a piece. So after queen g3, Chao resigned. So that was an example, which you're going to see a lot of today, a very forceful play from Wesley with excellent calculation and good judgment. His judgment was to sack the exchange and attack, and the computer's like, very good. That's a winning attack. And then his opponent didn't defend very well, but I'll give him a break. He wasn't 2,700 yet, his opponent. This was played in 2006. But Wesley So wasn't even 2,500 yet, and he's playing like a super GM in 2006. So he was a super talented player. His rating just hadn't caught up to how good he was yet. Sounds like a lot of kids. Okay, the next game isn't a whole game, it's just the end of the game. Okay, and he's playing a game against the guy whose name I can't pronounce. Morteza Mahjoob. Okay, and this was played in 2007, so Wesley's barely over 2,500. And you can see this is a game of strong knights. White's knight on d6 is amazing. Black's knight on d5 is pretty good. But I think more important than whose knight is better than whose are these pieces over here. Okay, terrible. Black's queenside pieces aren't playing. White's pieces are all playing. Okay, and don't blink because the game ends immediately. So no blinking. Okay, Black played knight e7. He wants to play knight f5, get rid of White's knight. Wesley played knight g5 with a discovered attack on the rook. So the guy traded rooks. Trading is good when the guy's mating you, and played knight f5. Okay, attacking the queen, defending. Now the bishop can get out to d7. e5 pawn is a little weak, etc. Okay, and Wesley, bishop takes, leaving his nice knight. Now, Black has three ways to capture. You can capture with the queen, then you lose your queen. That's bad. You can capture with the e-pawn. Now, usually I don't ask the live audience many questions, but I'm going to ask you one here. You guys can unmute yourself and give the answer. What's the winning move for White? It's incredibly winning. It's the most winning move you've ever seen. And the chat's quiet.
Knight takes h7.
Knight takes h7 is a good attacking move, but you have a better move. Whenever you see a good move, look for a better move.
Queen b3.
Queen b3. The truth hurts. Queen b3 check, and lots of things win, but this is the most winning. Double check, check, and so forth. And the king has nowhere to go, so you lose your queen, and then after you lose your queen, you still get mated. Then the queen comes in with mate somewhere. Okay, so queen takes f5, lost to queen. E takes f5, lost to queen b3 check. So now you know what Black played. Played g takes f5. Now you guys remember how e takes f5 lost and queen takes f5 lost? I just showed you, remember? Right? So now Wesley played a move and his opponent resigned. And I thought two bishops were better than two knights. What move did Wesley play?
Sack the rook on f5.
Sack the rook on f5. Bam. First played in the game, gotcha versus you-know-who. Now, if Black doesn't take the rook, that's bad. Because my rook's coming to f7, White's up material, White's knights are dominating. If you take with the queen, you lose your queen. And if you take with the e-pawn, we just looked at this, except White doesn't have a rook on f1, but I didn't need that rook on f1. So after rook takes f5, Black resigned. So again, Wesley's not a super GM, but he's beating other GMs like they're no good at all. Like White just totally ran over Black this game. Okay, now I want to show you one of Wesley's most famous games, If you're not familiar, then I hope you're ashamed of yourself. And even if you are familiar, you should still be ashamed of yourself. You should still. Okay, this is the game Wesley So Kasparov, and unlike most of the games I show, and by most I mean all of them, this is a blitz game. And I'll tell you I'll give you two quotes. Quote number one from Yasser Seirawan, who did live commentary. He said, this is the greatest blitz game ever played. So that's good. Comment number two is from Kasparov after he lost. He said, this was like a game Morphy versus amateur, and I was the amateur. Okay, that's when you know you beat somebody down. Okay, this was played in the St. Louis Blitz tournament. Wesley has white against Kasparov. It starts out not too exciting, sort of simple, quiet, positional. Okay, and Kasparov plays un-Kasparov-like. Kasparov doesn't play like this with black. Seirawan would play like this with black, but not, okay. Bishop e2, knight c6. This looks exactly like Seirawan when he was an IM or FM. This is how he played with black. Okay, knight bd2 is a very unusual move. In fact, I've never seen it before. But the idea is, if you take the knight, I take back with the knight, and I'm protecting my pawn on d4. And if you take this pawn, I take, and you're losing a piece. If you take, I take the bishop, and if you take with the bishop, I recapture with the knight. White's up a piece. So I've never seen knight bd2, but it defends everything. Okay, Kasparov played e5, d5, knight e7. Typically, when you play this line, you want to play knight d4, but you can't because of what Wesley did. You can't play knight d4. I take it and win a piece. So you had to go back to e7. Okay. h3. And Kasparov doesn't want to give up the two bishops for nothing. So he goes back. And Kasparov figures it'll be a King's Indian type position. He'll play f5 and knight f6 and castle. And it looks like a King's Indian, which Kasparov played his whole career. Although White's knight is on d2, which is sort of weird. Okay. And Wesley played c5. And he said, no, I'm going to start attacking right away because the king's in the center and I'm going to mess up your pawn structure. And this is tough for Kasparov. He ended up taking it. If he doesn't take it, I'm going to take this and play knight c4, and then your d6 pawn is weak. Knight's great on c4. So knight bd2 would have worked out. So Kasparov's like, all right, if you're going to sack a pawn, I'll take it. Then knight c4, threatening the e5 pawn, and possibly more importantly, threatening d6. So black is on the defensive here. Now he played the move f6, so now you know who won the game. I told you before. I think after the game, Yasser was suggesting knight c8. So the knight would stop d6. Obviously, that just gives the pawn back on e5. So that's, black's a pawn up, and his game's no good. Might as well be a pawn up and have a bad game rather than have even material in a bad game. So f6, he's like, the attack won't work and I'll be up a pawn. Okay, so d6 obviously. He played knight c8 now. It doesn't look nice to put your king on f8 here. Also after queen b3, the truth hurts. This doesn't look very good for black. So Kasparov played knight c8. And he said, okay, I got everything covered, I'm good. Bishop e3, attacking the pawn on c5. b6. White castled. And black's up a pawn, but black's position doesn't look very good. He played bishop c6, attacking this pawn, and attacking this pawn again. So he's got a lot of attack. D takes c7. Queen takes c7. Black's just up a pawn. Black's going to play knight e7 and castle. Black's going to take on e4. You can't play knight d6 because there's a black knight on c8 defending it. So black looks okay. b4. Wesley has to open up the position. And he wants to play b takes c5, getting his pawn back. Kasparov takes. Now black's up 2 pawns. Rook c1. Wesley opens up the c file. He's going to go to attack on the bishop. And hopefully, for Wesley's sake, he can play bishop b5 soon and get some double pin on the bishop. Knight e7, developing a piece, threatening to castle, and defending his bishop. So, like, to me, black looks fine here. Black's up 2 pawns. Black defended everything. What's the problem? Queen b3. Obviously, black doesn't want to castle now because the knight goes somewhere with check. Knight takes pawn, knight takes rook, or knight takes pawn, knight f7. So we can't castle into a discovered attack. So he plays h6, not a good move. Rook d1, b5 kicking the knight. Where does the knight go? Well, if the knight goes to b2 or d2, it's probably not the best blitz game ever played. Knight takes e5, attacking Kasparov's king. We have to take the knight. Bishop takes b5. So white's down a piece, but white's queen's coming to e6, and this bishop is pinned. The king can never get out. Black doesn't have any really good moves. Although what's funny is the move h6 that Kasparov played after this knight sacrifice, it does stop knight g5. So it's sort of like Kasparov saw the knight sacrifice, but he thought h6 would make it bad. But Wesley did it anyway. Rook b8 attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back to a4. Keep the pin. Queen b7. Rook takes c6. Sacking the exchange again. Always sack the exchange. Knight takes c6. Queen e6 check. The truth hurts. Played knight e7. That makes sense. We could also play queen e7. And then I play bishop takes. You can't play king d8 because of my rook. And then I guess bishop c5 is good enough. I might be missing something, but bishop c5 is definitely good enough. And then if you take it, I have mate. And if you don't like that, like you're mad, you're like, I don't like queen e8 mate. Okay, here's another mate. All right. And I'm guessing other things win also, but okay, that's incredibly winning. Okay, so he played knight e7, bishop c5. So I like in the last game I showed you, Wesley had 2 knights and he beat the 2 bishops. And in this position, Wesley's 2 knights are crushing the two bishops are crushing the 2 knights. Now in this position, if it was white's turn to move, which it's not, so we're going to do a Yasser Seirawan and play a6 again. Then bishop takes c6 check. And if queen takes, then mate. So black has to stop that. He played rook c8. That stops that. Bishop takes e7. Okay, now knight takes e7 is illegal because it's pinned. King takes e7 is illegal. And if you take this, you lose all your pieces. I can take with check. The knight's pinned. Then I could take this, and white's up a piece for nothing. Or maybe it's better to play bishop b3. Maybe there's some mate. Bishop b3 check. Maybe that's better. Queen here check. Man, truth hurts. Remember when Kasparov was the world champion? Okay. So after bishop takes e7, Kasparov resigned. I mean, he really got crushed that game and got hammered, and white was attacking every move and so forth. And the computer just likes everything Wesley did, even though it was a blitz game. And obviously Kasparov not looking too good here. The truth hurts. So a great game from Wesley, and I watched that game live, and I remember Yasser like watching it live. I couldn't believe how great it was. He was so impressed. So impressed. You can use that. Okay, last but not least, but definitely last, this is his game against Akobian from the 2016 U.S. Championship. Now, What some of you don't know, and some of you do, it'll be about half and half. There was a game between So and Akobian in the U.S. Championship, not in this one, later. And, or maybe it was before this. 2016, what year is this? It was before this. So Wesley was playing Akobian, and around move 8 or 9, Wesley wrote something on his score sheet that wasn't chess related, like, good thinking and, try hard. And he was forfeited. Akobian said, hey, he's writing on his score sheet. He'd already been warned not to do that a previous round, and he was forfeited. And there was an appeals committee, which I sat on. I was on the appeals committee. And the appeals committee had to rule. He said, I don't mind that I lost. That's fine. Okay, I'm not appealing that. Says, I don't want the game to be rated. Like, I was forfeited on move 9, so can I lose and the game's not rated? Now, that's beyond the scope of the appeals committee. We can't tell FIDE, hey, don't rate this game because we said so. We can't, or even So said so. We can't, the game's rated, once the game starts and people are making moves, if somebody's forfeited because their cell phone goes off or they're forfeited for cheating in some way, we can't tell FIDE, okay, but don't rate this game. FIDE is not going to listen to us. So we didn't have the right to do that anyway, so we just said no. Okay, and what's funny is Akobian sort of ratting on Wesley So, but later they became good friends. Okay, anyway, this game is revenge. Okay, this is a game they played in a later U.S. Championship in 2016. Akobian played the French, and because of this variation, Akobian started playing the Caro-Kann a lot because he kept losing in the French to the same line. So instead of changing lines in the French, he would start playing Caro-Kann. Okay, so he would take and play knight d7. This is what Akobian did whether you played knight c3 or knight d2. He would take on e4 and play knight d7. And then play knight f6. This is the burn variation, but unfortunately for VAR, he kept getting burned. So he had to stop playing it. Knight takes, c3, c5, bishop e3. So white just wants to take this pawn and be a pawn ahead. So black takes, white takes back, black plays bishop e7. This looks okay for black. This doesn't look so bad. Bishop d3, castles. Okay, and in this game, again, there's two Wesley So's. There's the Wesley So that castles kingside and trades all the pieces and agrees to a draw. That's one Wesley So. Then there's this Wesley So, where the game just ends immediately because he plays perfect and attacks you. That's the Wesley So where I could show you dozens of games where he totally crushes grandmasters, like they're not even in the game. He totally annihilates them. And then I can show you 20 more games where he plays 20 move draws and he trades all the pieces. I don't know why he does it. And when Wesley's paired down and he's playing players like 2100 to 2500, then he just totally crushes them, which was good on our Pro Chess League team. Okay, queen c2. So he's threatening bishop takes knight, and then bishop takes h7 check, because the pawn wouldn't be defended. So h6. Long castle. Now he's threatening bishop takes knight, and bishop h7 check, winning the queen, because queen's on the d line. So VAR played queen a5, threatening the a2 pawn. Always play king b1. Rook d8. Knight e5. So far, nothing spectacular. I prefer white, but not a big deal. Bishop to d7. The bishop's going to go to e8 and defend. The rook can go to c8. The pawn can go b5, b4. Normal moves. And he played queen e2 from c2. He wants the queen in front of the bishop, not behind it. And this prepares g4, because his queen defends g4, or knight g4. Okay, so bishop c6. Rook e1. Now he's threatening knight takes f7. So if we play a Yasser kind of a move, a6, it's always a6. Knight takes f7, queen takes e6 check, and you lose your bishop. And maybe there's better moves than taking the bishop. Maybe bishop c4 is better. Maybe bishop g6 is better. Maybe bishop takes knight is better. But okay, I mean, after this, black resigns. So. Okay, so he plays bishop to d5. That defends the e pawn. So now if I do this, my queen's just hanging. And he's also threatening to take on a2. So Var defends his e6 pawn, stopping knight f7, and he threatens taking on a2. Okay, so he plays c4. Now if the bishop goes back, he can play his knight f7 again. Bishop takes g2. So this is very risky play from Var. And what Var's going to do is, he's going to take this bishop on d4. Because when the pawn was on c3, I was defending my bishop on d4. So now if you play knight f7, Var's not going to take the knight, he's going to take the bishop on d4. So Wesley played bishop c3 attacking the queen, and he said, okay, now I'm going to play knight f7 once your queen moves away. Then you won't play rook takes bishop. Var plays queen b6 and says, no, I'm defending e6. If you play knight takes and queen takes, I defended that. Okay, so now he switches tack and plays rook g1. Now that the g file's open, bishop moves to safety. And now Wesley is very religious, okay? So he's going to thank Jesus for this game. But you will know his name is the Lord if you play Wesley so, because he plays knight f7, which doesn't make a lot of sense because e6 isn't attacked. You can't play queen e6. And then after this, plays rook g7. So again, there's the two Wesley so's. There's the one who plays brilliant attacking chess and sacks all his pieces and calculates like an engine. And that Wesley so got to number 2 in the world, was 28-22 FIDE. And at one point in time, there was a 6-month period where Wesley won the London Chess Classic, he won Tata Steel, and he won the US Championship ahead of like Hikaru and Caruana and Dominguez. And he did it all in like 6 months. And he won the Sinkfield Cup before he won the London Chess Classic. So he won Sinkfield Cup, London Chess Classic, Tata Steel, and US Championship between September and April. All in a row, 4 in a row. And those tournaments all had 2,800 players. He won 4 in a row like doing that. And then, I don't know, where'd that guy go? Where'd this guy go? Knight f7, rook g7 check. This is like Mikhail Tal on steroids. Okay, so king takes, queen takes e6. Okay, if it's white to move, white's threatening queen takes e7 check, winning everything. If black prevents that, which I assume black will, then rook g1 check is annoying. Okay, well, he has to stop queen e7 check. So he played queen takes f2, Var stopped rook g1, and after queen e7, his queen defends his knight. So that's what happened. And he played king g8, and he said, haha, your rook can't attack me. I stopped your rook. Bishop h7 check, unbelievable. That's an unbelievable move. Okay, you have 2 legal moves. Knight takes, hangs mate in 1. So that's not good. And if you play king here, you lose all of your pieces. Bishop takes f6 check. Queen takes is the only legal move. Queen takes check. And then rook takes rook. And black ran out of pieces. Remember when white sacked all his pieces? Then he won all of black's pieces. Unbelievable, amazing. So after bishop h7 check, black resigned. Now, that wasn't against Joe Schmo. That was against Var Akobian, who 2 years ago almost won the US Championship. And this position, like here, the game ends in like 5 moves with white sacking all of his pieces. Knight takes f7, rook takes g7, queen e6. Now, of course, black didn't have to play queen f2. We could defend the bishop. Let's go here, maybe. That defends the bishop. Rook g1 check. Yeah. King h8 just gets mated. That's just mate. Well, that is mate. Mate. And then king f8. There's probably some really cute mate I'm not seeing. I mean, it seems like bishop g6 has to win. Well, I could just go here. All right, that's what he would have done. Threatening bishop g7 mate. Threatening queen g8 mate. Threatening rook g8 mate. I think a computer would go here. That's the computer move. Okay, so you can't defend your bishop with the rook. Defending it with the queen seems like the same thing. I just play rook g1 check. Now in this position, actually no, I can still do the same thing. Jeez. I thought I could go here, but that just hangs the queen with mate. Man, this is a tough position for black, because black played a move that gave all his pieces away, but I can't find a better move. I'm trying to find a move here for black that's better than Var's queen takes, but I can't. I don't know what to do here.
Is there no way for him to even give back material to try to...
Such as? I want a specific move.
I can't find one, but
right.
I'm curious.
No, obviously, if he could give back material and stop the mate, that would be nice. But I mean, this move wins all the pieces and mates, and this move wins all the pieces and mates. Well, he stopped one of them. He played queen f2.
And we try to run like f7.
This is f7.
Or sorry, f8. Like
King f8. Okay. Yeah, I would take. Now, if you take back and go here, then bishop here is mate. Because my rook on d1 is stopping the escape.
So do we give up? Can we just like throw the bishop away to threaten the queen? Like bishop e4?
Then queen takes and mate. Yeah, tough position for black. What's funny is when Wesley does this, when he sacks all of his pieces, it's always right. He never goes, oh, I missed that. His calculation skills are insane. They're insane. I've seen him analyze. He's crazy good. This is why he wins all the tournaments and got to #2 in the world. There was one day where if Wesley won and Magnus lost or drew, Wesley would have been higher rated than Magnus, but that didn't happen. So Magnus is always higher than Wesley, but there was one day where they were like 3 points apart. Yeah, Wesley's just too good. So I didn't understand why Wesley wasn't winning when I was watching him play 10 years ago, or 13 years ago at the Spice Cup, but then he started winning all of his games and I felt better. I was like, how's this guy not 2,800? He knows everything, he sees everything, understands everything, but he never wins. Then after that tournament, he started winning. He just didn't have a great tournament. Sometimes you're really good at chess, but you don't win. Things just don't work out your way. Your opponent plays well, the opening doesn't go right, you make one miscalculation out of hundreds. But since then, he's been putting it together. Go Wesley so. And we won the Pro Chess League together probably because of me. For example, there was a match we played Mahjoob team. Wesley lost to Mahjoob and I beat Mahjoob in that match. So that shows you who's better. Just that one game. We won't talk about any other games, ever. We won't talk about the fact that he's beaten every 2,700 player ever and I never play any of them. And I lose when I do play them. So great game by Wesley. And one thing that's probably not mentioned on the Wikipedia article about his accomplishments, there was a thing on chess.com, like one of those speed chess championships where all the top players play each other, where they play 5 minute, then 3 minute, then 1 minute. And one of the matches, he was playing Ray Robson, who was his roommate at Webster. So it was Wesley versus Ray Robson, and they were playing on the internet. I think they were in the same room. And at the time, that was the biggest crush of any of that tournament, in that format. He beat him by like 20 points. Wesley just won almost every game. So, and Ray Robson's pretty good at blitz chess. If you ever watch the chess.com has this the chess puzzle thing, Puzzle Rush. Ray Robson wins it every year, but Wesley was too good in Blitz chess. Anyway, again, I want to thank our sponsor, Austin. Thanks for sponsoring the lecture. If you want to sponsor a lecture, contact Karen at aclchessclub.com, and discuss with her, and you can sponsor a lecture. Great players of the present. You can't say he's of the past. He's too good. Yeah, thanks to Austin, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching the lecture. Bye, everybody.